makes most women start a business? Is it passion, money, or freedom? Welcome to Female Founders, the podcast that takes you behind the scene with women who are founders and CEOs to help you start and scale a successful business of your own. I am your host, Nagelia de Ravin. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Female Founders. In today's episode, I have Kendra Davies with me. Kendra is a positive psychology coach, speaker, and best-selling author. She is also the founder of Stellar Life Coaching. Good morning, Kendra. Thank you so much for giving me the chance to have this conversation with you, and I'm looking forward to learning more about your business. Can you tell us more about your background and what led you to become a positive psychology coach?
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you today. My name is Kendra Davies, and I am a positive psychology practitioner and a certified professional life coach, and I own Stellar Life Coaching here in Orlando, Florida. And my journey to become a life coach was born out of the idea that I wanted to be a therapist. One of the first conversations I had with my coach, feels like a million years ago now, was an exercise in asking myself, what is it that I wanted to do most? And the three things on my list were, I wanted to travel, I wanted to help people, and I wanted to talk. like I'm a good talker. I can talk things out well, and I love to help people and have a life of service. And I'm really passionate about travel. And he was like, that's great. Now, who's going to pay you to do that? And I was going to school to become a therapist when my ex's cousin came over and was like, I'm going to get certified to become a life coach. And I'm like, what's a life coach? I did a little bit of research. I found out that Oprah had a life coach. And I was like, all right, if Oprah's got one, it's legit. That's good enough for me. And so I went and I got certified, and we started Stellar. Only a month after we got certified, and it's been 10 years this month.
Oh my goodness, congratulations.
Thank you.
But did you ever finish your school as to be a therapist?
No, I did not go to become a therapist. I finished my degree in organizational behavior.
So now I'm thinking that you use that within your company as well, right?
For sure. I think that having, what's interesting to me the most about the way humans function is that we spend so much of our time at work, right? Like more time than we will do anything else in our lives, we spend at work. And how we feel at work matters. The relationships we have at work matter. The way we communicate and represent our authentic selves at work matters. And organizational development has been kind of the foundation of a lot of my work in bringing positive psychology to larger corporations.
Do you also focus into small businesses?
I do. I've worked with small business, medium businesses, large Fortune 500 organizations. I've worked with all of them.
So now, what is a positive psychology coach? What is that exactly?
Sure. So positive psychology is the scientific study of human flourishing and well-being. And where traditional psychology has asked what is wrong, what's broken, what's not working, positive psychology says, okay, what is working? And how do we make human potential actual? So positive psychology was really the starting point of so much of my own personal journey. I found positive psychology years before I started my business, years before I decided that I was going to do this. It was something that I was passionate about and studied on my own. And it slowly shifted my perspective and my mindset in such a way that it radically changed just about everything in my life. But a positive psychology coach specifically means that I use the methodologies from positive psychology in the way that I coach people, meaning we focus on daily rituals. We're growing emotional intelligence. We're focused on cultivating a growth mindset, using tools, resources, and research from positive psychology.
So now, how do you apply the principles of positive psychology in your coaching practice? And what are some of the misconceptions about this field?
How do I apply the principles of positive psychology in my business? Well, I mean, personally, how I live my life and how I orchestrate myself, I feel are aligned to the principles of positive psychology. So there is a lot of practicing what I preach. And I think that makes it very impactful and authentic at the end of the day. Both for myself, that's deeply fulfilling. And then also, I think for my clients and the businesses I support, there is a walk the talk kind of validation in the work. The principles that I apply with my clients are going to be really focused on daily positive rituals and getting out of stuck mindsets, right? I would say the pain point of my average customer or client is going to be somebody who feels stuck in the mundane, stuck in the monotonous, stuck in the cycles that our lives often get stuck in when we just feel disconnected. And the principles of positive psychology, if we're talking about cultivating positive emotions, for instance, this might mean that we go with affirmations. This might mean that we do body work and breath work. This might mean that we cultivate a gratitude practice that actually feels fulfilling and brings results for us.
So now, go ahead.
The second part of your question was, what are the misconceptions?
Yes.
Yeah. I think a common misconception around positive psychology is that it is just false positivity. Yeah. And this idea that you should just be happy and that's what I'm peddling. And that is not the goal of positive psychology, nor is that the goal of what I do at all. In fact, I would say that both positive psychology and my practice, the goal is to make all emotional experiences acceptable in our daily lives, right? Like there is no joy without pain. To love is to suffer, is to choose to take the risk and to be vulnerable. The light and the dark, the yin and the yang, these things all go together. It's just understanding that our brains as humans, actually have ways of storing negative information to make it easily accessible, right? Like our ancestors needed to know which bushes were poisonous and where the predators lived. And so we can file and store negative interactions in a special sorting system in our brain. But for positive interactions, we don't have that same filing system. It requires attention and intention, both in its practice and cultivation.
So now, why would the corporation need such services within the company?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So I think whether you're talking about leadership, management, the C-suite, your customer service representatives, emotional intelligence, for instance, is a skill that goes far beyond just talking about feelings. The ability to read a room, the ability to feel a disconnect from a customer, and the capacity to recognize it, know what it is, and then cultivate the courage to confront it directly can change the entire dynamics of a relationship. So I think on the front line, you have the customer experience. I think internal at organizations, like right now, I partner with a large Fortune 100, and it is all about communication, cultivating communication skills that allow people to be brave and courageous at work.
And which is something a lot of us, we have it. We just don't like using it, I will say, I think.
For sure. And I think that's half the battle, right? When I get people in a room and we start talking about being vulnerable and talking about our feelings at work, I think that the initial reaction is like, oh gosh, I don't want this. Like, why are we doing this? And then eventually it settles back down and it's like, oh, Dave is just a human being, just like I am. And when this session started, I was so intimidated by Dave and I felt overpowered by Dave. And then the more we actually talked and Dave could be a human and I could be a human, things got level set. And now we have the ability to have compassion and empathy for each other. We have the capacity to acknowledge that we're going to be flawed and human, and that that's actually okay. I don't have to harbor resentment, and I don't have to disconnect from the relationship at work in order to be productive.
Do you think that that type of services, that type of work that your company provides, do you think that will help a little bit to, I wouldn't say to stop it, but to slow down the competition at work, especially when you have between men and women? It's kind of like the woman will do all the hard work, but the men get the credit for it because for whatever reason. Do you think that will kind of help to say like, oh, we are equal, so we can actually work together instead of working against one another?
Well, I think that if you do not have a courageous and brave foundational communication plan for that scenario, then you're not going to have men that feel comfortable enough and safe enough to recognize their own bias and get called out. And I think you're also going to have women who are not empowered to call them out and to educate when they need to be heard. So I guess the answer to your question is yes, but I think that you're identifying a problem and the solution to that happens before that problem actually comes to the surface, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's talk a little bit more about Stellar Life Coaching.
Sure.
So what are all of the services that the company provides to other companies?
Sure. So I offer individual, couples counseling and coaching. I also partner with organizations who want to implement positive psychology principles into their wellness programs. Leadership and executive coaching. And then I also host women's retreats, international and here nationally at the US, for personal and professional development.
So when you talk about the retreat, do you do, I know with COVID, are you doing them online or are they in person?
They are in person.
Everything is to start again?
It is in person. I also have an online coaching program called Evolve. And that meets virtually, and then we have optional in-person events with that. But the retreats are all in person, and our next one is actually in Bali in August.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Is that only for individuals, or can that also be organization participate into it?
So this is just for individuals. So when it comes to my corporate clients, then that would be a retreat specialized for them. So customizing the content to be what their leaders need, ensuring that we hit all of those pain points and we actually have an action plan. That would be a customized retreat for the business, which I also offer. Mm-hmm.
Offer. So you are the creator of the online coaching program, Evolve. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
So Evolve came from the idea that we all have to start somewhere. Yeah. And I find that in my work, the spectrum that people are on this journey is broad. And I wanted to create a program that allowed everybody, regardless, like if you've already read the books and you've been listening to the podcast, you've done therapy, you have this idea of who you are and why you are here in this state. Or if you've never read the books and you've never gone to therapy and you've no idea what you're working with, I wanted to create a point where we can level set how your brain works, understanding your stress response, understanding how to regulate your nervous system. This is foundational information that I find that most people who have been doing the work for a while don't know. So we level set on just the basics of your stress response, how your brain works, and how you can use and leverage that to find peace. We talk about how to cultivate positive emotions. We talk about how to cultivate resilience. And essentially, it's like your starter kit to the work. So how do you confront a limiting belief that you have about yourself? Literally the how-to program of how to do that.
This is a lot of information. How long is the retreat?
Say that again?
How long is the retreat?
The retreat, the Phoenix retreat averages 5 to 7 days.
Yes. So with the online program, Evolve, how long is that one?
That one is 8 weeks.
But that's a lot of information for that one.
Yes, it is. Well, and I want people to get the most value. You know what I mean? Like, these are the things that were fundamental in changing the way that I lived my life, that I show up in the world, that brought me the most joy and really brought lasting change, right? Like, there's little things that you can do that can change your life today and immediate, but those things may not bring you lasting change.
Cheers.
This content from Evolve is basically the accumulation of the things that were the most impactful, that I believe are foundational to the work that we do, maintaining this quality of life moving forward.
So is that, do you guys meet online weekly, or is it like a program that starts, let's say, for example, every 3 months you have a new class started?
Yeah.
How does it actually work?
Yeah. So our next cohort starts in September, and we meet bi-weekly. Online.
So it's in a group. So it's up.
Yeah.
Would you say about what, 15 people?
No, I cap Evolve at 50 online. Yeah.
50?
50. Mm-hmm.
You do really like to talk.
Well, so for me, online programs are meant to be impactful. So the program is structured in such a way that you do the work. And then when we meet bi-weekly, you've done the work and now you get your time with me. So, I've done online programs where, I get my monthly call with somebody. It's an hour. I'm on the call with 500 other people, right? And there's no opportunity to speak. But the way that I've structured this program is that, one, we're capped at 50, which is a very low number, all things considered. And then you have the work, you can review the materials. I'm not walking you through PowerPoints on a call. We're having the conversation of integration. How do I apply this in my life? The opportunity to be in community, to have guest speakers, guest authors that come in and share their expertise on how you can integrate these practices into your life today.
I like that. So pretty much, it's not just really a meeting online, but they have one-on-one with you. So you get to talk to them.
100%.
I like that. So now with the retreat, how can someone sign up for the retreat?
Sure. So you can go to thephoenixretreat.com to find out how you can join us. We have one spot left in Bali. Yes, one. It is a jam-packed retreat and a powerful, powerful itinerary and program plan. So one more lucky person is available, but you can keep your eye on the Phoenix Retreat, join my wait list or mailing list, and get a heads up when the next retreat is announced.
So how many people do you have in each retreat?
I cap the retreat at 15.
15?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that because it's very intense, I would say?
It's intimate. So it's intimate, and I'm only one person. So
Sure.
I am bringing a fantastic coach. Her name is Dina Felice. I lie. Can you edit that out? Her name is Dina Brady. I'm bringing a fantastic coach with me. Her name is Dina Brady, and she is the owner of Solution Life Coaching. She is going to help lead the breath and body work portion and the adventure portion of the retreat in Bali. So I'm not operating alone, but I find that it's too easy to hide behind people on a retreat when there's so many of us. So I cap it at 15 so we can have that intimate experience and do the deep work that really has that lasting impact.
So you pretty much want to be able to spotlight everybody there.
Everybody gets the time, the one-on-one time, they get the free time, they get the adventure time, they get the self-reflection time, they get all the time.
So now, how do you help clients identify and overcome limiting beliefs or negative thoughts that are holding them back?
Yeah. It's a fantastic question. And unfortunately, it doesn't have like a very straightforward answer, right? It really depends on the thought, where that thought came from and why you have it. But I think that if you wanted tips and tricks on how to do it, the first question I often ask is, what is the thought? And we struggle so hard to identify what exactly the thing is. We get into an argument with our partner, it gets out of control, we feel overwhelmed, we're scared. And when you ask yourself, what is the thought? The first thing that comes to mind is usually about another person. Well, they did this and then I felt that. And that's not the thought. That's not the limiting belief. The limiting belief is the thing you think is true about yourself. So maybe it's, I'm not lovable. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I need more education before I start my business. Nobody is going to respect a fat life coach. I need to lose 20 pounds and then I can do this thing that is alive in me, right? Like we have these limiting beliefs, and it's a variety of them, right? If you go to each facet of your life, work, home, your side hustle, your passions, like wherever it is, if you can identify the thought itself, that to me is key, because if you don't have the right thought, you can do a lot of work on that thought and nothing will change because that's not the thought. So first, identify the thought. That's the most important piece. And then once you have that thought, ask yourself, when was the first time you felt it? Because that's going to take you back to the original. I had a fantastic mentor that said, words only hurt what's already there, right? So what that means is if I say, you are a Volkswagen, what do you feel? Nothing. You're not a car.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything to you. You're like, whatever, right? But if I say you're a bad mom or a bad friend or a bad boss, right? Like then you have feelings, because if you feel or are afraid of that thing already, then my words are not what hurt you. The fact that you already hold it is the thing that hurts. Yeah. So what is the thought? When was the first time you felt that thought? And getting really, really clear on the original experience of it, because that is what we work on. That is what we heal. It's not the present tense trigger, but the past tense root of the problem.
It's the problem. So now, can you discuss the importance of emotional healing and self-care in achieving personal and professional success?
I feel like it's trite these days, but the reality is that we can't pour from an empty cup. You just can't. So whether you're talking about personal or professional, I feel like self-care is becoming something that we can no longer continue to ignore, put off, or deny its importance. I find that with the hundreds of people that I have worked with, the first responders I supported during COVID, what I am seeing more and more is that burnout, and the belief that work can't end. I can't say no. I can't have boundaries. It's making people sick. And what I mean by that is that we are in such a stress state so consistently, prolonged for so long, that when we get to a moment with our kids in a hug, we feel disconnected. At the end of the day, we no longer have the patience or compassion or the bandwidth to be present in our lives. Yeah. So more now than probably ever before, I think self-care and recognizing your limitations and listening to your body and honoring the no is really, really, really important.
Oh, they know. I think that's a whole other conversation.
Yes.
We don't like to say no. We like to say yes.
And that is the whole truth, and also a big part of the biggest problem that most people are facing now.
Especially after COVID, I think that's burnout, even with doctors, even with the people who's helping you taking care of yourself, even them are burning out as well.
100%. I think even more so now. I feel like I feel like you just can't underestimate the challenges and the pressures that COVID put on us. I used to call it the tiger hiding in the tall grass. Like you can't see it, but you know that it's there. That is the sensation, the feeling of impending ambiguity, uncertainty that has been here since 2020 that all of us have felt, all of us.
So now what is the process of a company or an individual to start working with you?
Sure.
How do they get started?
Yeah. I mean, if you go to www.stellarlifecoaching.com, you can access me. The phone number is there. You can text or call that number. You can fill out a web form and reach me directly. I try to make the process as simple as possible. So if you've got questions, if I can support you, if you want to discuss what's available, all you have to do is reach out. My website is the best way to do it. You can also follow me on Instagram at Stellar Coach, just to get access to content and stay connected.
So now I'm curious. Why did you pick the name Stellar?
So I have started 3 businesses and they all had Stellar in the title. And it was because of my favorite Incubus song from the early 2000s. So that's where it came from. Mm-hmm.
So you love the name, you just kept the name.
I do. Mm-hmm.
So what advice would you give to someone who is feeling stuck or even unfulfilled in their personal and professional life?
Yeah. First and foremost, I think I would talk to somebody. There's power when you get coached. You have an experience of somebody outside of you that's not mired down in your past, with your past experiences and your past failings, somebody who can really root and cheer for you and see you as you are now and offer you guidance on how to move forward. So first and foremost, speak to somebody. Second, never underestimate of action. Like sometimes we think that we can't start a thing unless it looks a certain way, right? Like I can't start doing yoga until I get the right yoga outfit. And then I got to get that yoga mat. And then I got to do the thing. When in reality, there are mornings where I just throw myself onto the floor and get going. I roll out of bed and I get onto the floor and I just get as far as I can. And sometimes we have to let that be enough. So for somebody who's feeling stuck, I would say, you're already thinking of the things that you need to do. You think about going for a walk. You think about calling your friend. You think about eating a salad. You think the thoughts already. The problem isn't that you don't have the thoughts. The problem is the action. So take any version of action towards that. Take 2 bites of the salad and then kill the pizza. Fine. Eat the salad. Yeah. If you're trying to do a new morning routine, hurl yourself onto the floor. Focus on your breath, hand on heart, hand on belly, and take 5 deep breaths and then get going with your day. Like it doesn't have to be perfect and everything that you think it should be in order to get done. And perfectionism is the enemy of progress. So take action and you will feel better the moment you start honoring your own thoughts and your own feelings because you're thinking it, you just got to do it.
At the end, we are not perfect anyway. So why try to be perfect?
Yeah. I wish it was that simple to move through though, right? I feel like these are really simple concepts, but they're not easy to practice. The brain is powerful.
Yeah, it is. But you know what? If we were perfect, the world would be boring.
So boring. And I wouldn't have a job.
Well, we know how to do everything. What's the point? If you only know how to do it, there's no mistakes.
Exactly. Yeah.
So now, what is the future of your company? Where do you see it?
Well, right now I'm rolling out breathwork and bodywork through Stellar. Right now, Evolve, we have 1 cohort going. We have our 2nd cohort launching in September. That is a huge lift and I'm super, super excited to bring that out. I feel like online coaching allows me to have more impact and it allows us to build a community that's so necessary when we do this work of healing ourselves. More retreats, 100%. The Phoenix retreat is my baby, and Bali is actually a new retreat, right? Like I've done the same retreat for 7 years, and Bali is actually a new retreat. So the content of the retreat is new and different and fresh, and that's super exciting. I've only served women on my retreats historically, but I have been coaxed and asked repeatedly to do either a co-ed or a men's retreat. So I believe that is also on the horizon.
Well, thank you so much for everything that you are doing. It's kind of like, so it's funny that the way your husband cousin, I believe that's what you said, that show up, say life coach, and I just get my certification. It's all started that way. But imagine that when that happened, you ignore it, or because sometimes as humans, we spend so much time talking, we have a hard time listening, And I think even you like to talk, but that moment you listening to someone else talking, you get to learn something new. And now look at it, you are helping us to be better, to be able to be better in what we do. And
best
God
decision.
knows after COVID, yes, best decision ever. And after COVID, we need it. We need it.
100%. I'm very grateful every day.
Thank you so much, Kendra, for taking the time to talk to me and to share your passion with me. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to Female Founders Podcast. That's it for this week's episode. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app or connect with us on womel.com so that you don't miss our next episode. See you next time. Bye for now.